Hello, my beautiful friend. I'm so grateful you're here today. Whether you're just beginning to think about growing your family or you've been walking this path for a while, please know that this space is made with love.com and understanding just for you. You are welcome here. Your feelings are welcome here, and your dreams are welcome here. I'm truly honored to be part of your journey. Before we begin, take a deep breath and remind yourself that you are not alone on this journey. If you're thinking about getting pregnant in your late 30s or 40s, you've probably heard a lot of scary things about age and fertility, but today, we're going to replace fear with real understanding and genuine reassurance. Everything you're about to hear is designed to empower you, calm your heart, and guide you with clarity, not pressure. So if you're ready to learn what truly matters about fertility after 35, this video was made for you. And before we dive in, make sure you resubscribe to the channel and hit that like button so you never miss a new weekly video filled with the guidance, support, and evidence-based information you deserve. Now, let's begin this journey together. Many women hear repeatedly that turning 35 marks a dramatic and irreversible fertility cliff, and this message is often delivered in a way that creates unnecessary fear or pressure. But when you look closely at the real science, you discover that the story is far more hopeful and nuanced than what social media tends to portray. Age does influence fertility, yes, but it does so gradually, not as a sudden drop-off, and thousands of women conceive naturally after 35 every single day. Understanding this helps release some of the anxiety that comes from hearing alarmist language that doesn't reflect real human possibility. It's important to remind yourself that your body is not a deadline. It's a living, adaptable system that has carried you through decades of change. Your eggs are not shriveling or vanishing overnight. They are simply aging with you, just like every cell in the body. And aging does not mean failure. It means understanding the new stage you are in and working with it. Many women discover that once they let go of the fear-based narrative around age, they can approach conception with more confidence and clarity. This shift in mindset matters because fear can distort decision-making, while knowledge brings empowerment. Instead of thinking in terms of too late, it helps to think in terms of what can support me best at this age. That perspective creates room for hope, planning, and informed choices rather than panic. When women see examples of others conceiving naturally in their late 30s and 40s, it reinforces a truth that science also validates. It is absolutely possible. While fertility changes with age, it doesn't vanish at a specific birthday. Studies show a gradual decline, not a cliff, and that gradual change simply invites attentiveness, not despair. The more you understand these nuances, the more grounded and reassured you become about your own timeline. And reassurance matters, especially when the world around you can be filled with overly simplistic messages. This is why healthcare professionals emphasize education rather than fear. When you understand why fertility shifts and how it shifts, it becomes less mysterious and less frightening. You begin to see that, although age is a factor, it is not a sentence, and it does not define your ability to become a parent. Your journey may look different from someone younger, but different does not mean impossible. So instead of internalizing the idea that 35 or 40 brings an end to your chances, think of this stage as one that simply requires awareness and intention. Women create families at many ages, and your path is allowed to unfold in a way that reflects your life, your timing, and your unique circumstances. There is space for possibility here, and more importantly, there is space for optimism. Understanding the difference between how eggs and sperm age is one of the most grounding pieces of information for anyone trying to conceive later in life. Women are born with all the eggs they will ever have, and those eggs age alongside them, experiencing the same environmental exposures, natural wear, and passage of time as the rest of the body. Men, on the other hand, produce new sperm every day, which means the impact of age is different and often less pronounced. Knowing this helps explain the biological landscape without judgment or fear, simply offering clarity. This clarity is powerful because it shifts the narrative from blame or frustration to understanding. When you learn that eggs spend decades waiting for ovulation, you begin to see why age gradually affects their genetic quality. It isn't a failure of the body but a natural process, much like how skin cells or muscle fibers change across the years. Sperm, produced continuously and in large numbers, simply operate on a different timeline. By seeing these systems as they truly are, You reduce the emotional weight that often comes with trying to conceive in your late 30s or 40s. Instead of feeling like something is wrong, you recognize that this is simply biology. And biology is something you can learn about, support, and work with. Knowledge takes away the mystery and replaces it with steps that actually help. And while aging eggs can make conception more challenging, it doesn't make it impossible. Many eggs remain healthy and capable, and many sperm, even in older men, are strong and functional. The story is not black and white. It's a spectrum filled with opportunities for success. Science does not close the door. It simply encourages awareness. This is why fertility specialists emphasize understanding these mechanisms rather than panicking about them. When you understand why something is happening, you naturally feel more empowered to take the right steps for you, whether through timing, lifestyle adjustments, or medical support. It becomes less about fear and more about strategy. So instead of carrying misconceptions about eggs being bad or too old, you can carry the truth. Eggs age, but many still function beautifully. And countless women build healthy families after 40. Your body is not working against you. It is simply inviting you to understand it more deeply. One of the most comforting truths is that many women over 40 still conceive naturally. Even when statistical charts may appear discouraging at first glance, while chances per cycle do decrease with age, they do not fall to zero, and countless pregnancies occur in the early and mid-40s without any intervention at all. This reminder helps soften the anxiety that often comes from comparing yourself to younger women or feeling like you have run out of time. Understanding real-world probabilities is reassuring in itself. Younger women have about a 20 to 25% chance of conceiving each month, while women around 40 have closer to a 5% chance, but 5% is not no chance. It means that over multiple cycles, many women do see a positive test, and many carry to term. This perspective transforms statistics from something frightening into something informative and empowering. When you adopt this mindset, you give yourself permission to hope, realistically rather than fear endlessly. Each cycle becomes an opportunity, not a countdown, and you stop viewing your body as something failing and begin viewing it as something still capable. This emotional shift matters deeply during a journey that can already be emotionally demanding. Many people assume that trying later in life must be discouraging, yet the lived experiences of women worldwide tell a different story. Every day, new announcements from women in their 40s remind us that fertility does not simply shut down. These stories, combined with medical understanding, paint a fuller and far more hopeful picture. It also helps to remember that a slightly longer timeline does not diminish the joy or meaning of becoming a parent. A pregnancy at 40 can be just as healthy, just as exciting, and just as transformative as one at 25. Age may shift the path, but it does not take away the destination. So when you look at the numbers, try to see them as information, not prophecy. They guide expectations, but they do not dictate your future. Many women over 40 become mothers naturally, beautifully, and often without any complications, and your story may unfold in exactly the same way. Miscarriage is one of the most emotionally painful topics in fertility, and yet one of the most misunderstood. As women age, the risk of miscarriage increases, but the reason is almost always linked to chromosomal issues in the embryo, not to anything the woman did wrong. Knowing this helps lift a heavy burden of guilt that many women carry silently when facing loss or fearing loss. When eggs age, they are more likely to make mistakes during the genetic process that happens at ovulation. These mistakes are random, often unavoidable, and completely outside of a woman's control. They do not reflect poor health, poor choices, or poor preparation. They reflect biology, an understanding that helps soften the emotional experience and provide context. This knowledge is healing because it shifts the focus away from self-blame. Women often ask what they could have done differently, but in reality, most miscarriages, especially after 35, are simply due to chromosomal imbalance, not lifestyle, diet, or effort. It is nature's way of deciding which pregnancies can progress safely, not a reflection of a woman's worth or ability. And despite the increased risk, many pregnancies in the 40s result in healthy, thriving babies. Miscarriage risk rising does not mean miscarriage is guaranteed. It means being informed, prepared, and supported emotionally makes a difference in navigating the journey ahead. Awareness brings steadiness. By learning about these risks through compassionate explanation, women often feel more grounded. Instead of fearing the unknown, they begin to understand the biological reasons behind the statistics. With every piece of knowledge comes a greater sense of control and peace. So when thinking about miscarriage risk at an older age, remember that the body is not failing. It is simply doing what all bodies do, attempting to ensure the healthiest possible outcome. Many women over 40 carry successful pregnancies, and understanding the reason behind the risks helps women move forward with courage rather than fear. These blocks are extremely long. To avoid hitting the message limit and forcing cuts, confirm if you want. One of the most reassuring insights comes from what we've learned through IV, because embryo screening gives us a clearer picture of how egg quality shifts with age, and this information often brings understanding instead of fear. When specialists examine embryos in the lab, they can see which ones have balanced chromosomes and which ones don't. What studies consistently show is that while the percentage of normal embryos declines with age, there are still normal embryos being created, even in the early and mid. This fact alone brings hope to countless women who worry that age makes pregnancy impossible. Seeing these numbers from IVF helps you understand the biology behind conception without feeling overwhelmed by statistics taken out of context. For example, at age 35, around 60% of embryos tend to be genetically normal. At age 40, that number shifts to about 40%, and at age 42, around 20%. While the shift is real, it also means a certain percentage of healthy embryos still exist, still develop, and still lead to successful pregnancies. In other words, the body continues to produce viable life. This information empowers women because it transforms vague fear into concrete understanding. Instead of worrying that all my eggs are bad, you learn that many eggs still function perfectly well. The process simply becomes less efficient. You aren't broken. Your body isn't shutting down. It is doing exactly what biology predicts, and knowing this allows you to plan realistically and compassionately. Looking at embryo data also reveals how inefficient human reproduction naturally is, even at younger ages. Many embryos at any age never implant, and many early pregnancies end before a test is even positive. This isn't due to age alone, but due to the delicate, intricate process of genetic matching that every embryo must undergo. When you see it framed this way, age becomes just one part of the story, not the entire story. And while IVF gives us clearer insight, it does not mean IVF is required or even recommended for everyone. Its value in this context is educational. It shows that egg aging is gradual, not absolute, and that women of many ages still produce genetically balanced embryos. This understanding alone helps women breathe easier and view their bodies with more compassion rather than fear. Ultimately, the data from IVF serves as a reminder of possibility. Even when the percentages shift, hope remains real, grounded, and supported by science. And knowing that your body is still capable, still creating life, and still offering opportunity is one of the most stabilizing truths you can carry with you on your fertility journey. One of the most thoughtful steps you can take when trying to conceive at 40 or later is to reflect on your family goals with honesty and clarity. It may feel strange at first to think ahead before even becoming pregnant, but doing so helps align your choices with your long-term dreams. If you want one child, your timeline might look different than if you've always imagined having 2 or 3. This isn't pressure, it's empowerment through planning. Many women discover that reflecting on their goals removes uncertainty and brings peace. Instead of feeling like every month is a frantic race against time, planning helps you understand the path you want to walk. It helps you make decisions that feel intentional, grounded, and aligned with the future you envision, rather than reactive or rushed. Considering your goals also helps frame the reality of biological timing in a compassionate way. For example, if someone gets pregnant at 40 and welcomes a baby at 41, they may not want to begin trying for another until their child is a year old. That means the next attempt naturally shifts to 42 or 43. Understanding this helps manage expectations and prevents unnecessary stress later. It's not a warning, it's preparation. This perspective encourages many women to think proactively about options, whether natural conception, egg or embryo freezing, or simply understanding their cycle thoroughly. None of these choices are mandatory. They are simply pathways that become clearer once you know what you truly want for your family. Planning is a form of self-care. And planning does not diminish the magic of conception, it enhances it. It creates space for joy, readiness, and calm. When you know the direction you're moving toward, the process feels less overwhelming and more like an informed, empowered journey. Women often describe this shift as moving from fear to intent. Your family goals are uniquely yours, whether it's one child, 2 children, or simply wanting to preserve the possibility for the future. Reflecting on these goals gives you clarity and confidence. No decision has to be made in haste. Instead, you can walk forward with understanding, compassion for yourself, and a vision that guides your steps toward building the family you dream of. One of the kindest things you can do for yourself when trying to conceive after 40 is to avoid waiting unnecessarily for basic fertility testing. Testing does not mean anything is wrong, nor does it commit you to treatment. It simply gives you information, and information reduces stress. At this age, time is valuable, and understanding your body sooner helps you feel more confident and supported throughout your journey. Many women assume that testing is only needed after months of trying, but the reality is that proactive testing can save precious time and prevent future frustration. Simple assessments like checking hormone levels, confirming ovulation, analyzing sperm, or ensuring fallopian tubes are open can reveal strengths you didn't know you had, or small obstacles that are easy to address. Testing turns the unknown into something understandable. This clarity helps you replace fear-based assumptions with real insight. Instead of wondering whether everything is working properly, you gain concrete answers that guide your timing and choices. Sometimes, test results are reassuring and confirm that everything looks healthy. Other times, they highlight an issue that can be addressed quickly. Either way, you are no longer guessing, you are informed. Proactive testing also supports emotional well-being. Many women feel isolated or anxious when trying to conceive later in life. Learning about your body through testing helps you feel connected to your process rather than overwhelmed by uncertainty. It gives you a sense of control and partnership with your healthcare team instead of feeling like you're navigating blind. It is equally important to remember that irregular cycles, unpredictable ovulation, or difficulty determining fertile windows can all benefit from early evaluation. These issues are usually manageable once understood, but waiting too long can add unnecessary stress. When you discover the root of a concern early, you free yourself to move forward with clarity instead of lingering doubt. Testing early is ultimately an act of self-kindness. It shows that you respect your time, your emotional well-being, and your future goals. You are not rushing, you are preparing. And preparation is one of the most powerful tools you have when building a family at any age, especially after 40. A deeply reassuring step in trying to conceive at any age, but especially after 40, is understanding your menstrual cycle and ovulation patterns. Many women grow up believing that every cycle should follow a predictable 28-day rhythm, but fewer than a quarter of people actually have this pattern. Knowing your own rhythms instead of relying on assumptions helps. You feel more connected to your body and more confident in your timing. When you start observing your natural signs, cervical mucus ovulation tests, basal temperature patterns, or cycle instinct, you learn that your body communicates clearly when you know how to listen. Apps can be useful, but they rely on averages, not your personal biology. Real understanding comes from your own observations, and this knowledge makes you feel empowered rather than dependent on algorithms. Learning your fertile window brings calm to the process because it replaces guessing with awareness. Instead of wondering if you timed things correctly, you begin to understand the predictable signs your body gives. This reassurance helps ease the emotional ups and downs that can come with the trying to conceive journey, especially when age adds natural pressure. This knowledge also brings a sense of partnership with your body instead of frustration. You begin to recognize that your body is not confusing or unpredictable. It simply has its own rhythm. When you learn that rhythm, you build trust in yourself and in your fertility process. This trust reduces stress and increases confidence. Understanding your cycle becomes even more valuable if your periods are irregular, if ovulation is inconsistent, or if you recently stopped birth control. These situations are common and manageable once you identify them. Knowing your cycle helps your healthcare team support you more effectively and makes the path ahead clearer. The more you understand your body's signals, the more grounded and confident you become. You move from uncertainty to awareness, from stress to understanding. This sense of connection is especially important when trying to conceive later in life, because it transforms the process into one that feels intentional, informed, and emotionally supported. Optimizing your lifestyle for fertility is one of the most supportive and empowering things you can do. And it does not require extremes or perfection. Small, sustainable habits can make a meaningful difference in reproductive health, no matter your age. When you focus on balance rather than restriction, the process becomes nurturing instead of stressful, and your body benefits from that sense of care. Nutrition plays an important role, not through strict diets, but through mindful choices. Foods rich in antioxidants, healthy fats, and whole ingredients support hormone balance and overall well-being. When you nourish yourself intentionally, you feel stronger, calmer, and more grounded, qualities that deeply influence fertility in subtle ways. Exercise is another element that can be adjusted with compassion. Staying active is incredibly beneficial, but intense, high-stress routines may need modification during this phase. Lightening the load does not mean giving up your identity. It means aligning your movement with your goals. Gentle strength, flexibility, and cardiovascular routines support hormonal harmony and emotional stability. Sleep is often overlooked, yet it is essential. When you prioritize rest, your body regulates hormones more smoothly, reduces stress, and prepares for conception more effectively. In a world where sleep is often sacrificed, choosing to protect it becomes a profound act of self-care that supports both physical and emotional health. Managing stress is equally important, not because stress causes infertility, but because chronic stress can make the process feel heavier. Tools like mindfulness, therapy, breathwork, or gentle routines can create inner steadiness. You cannot eliminate stress completely, but you can build resilience and find methods that genuinely soothe you. Reducing exposure to toxins is another gentle step that adds up over time. Switching to glass containers, choosing cleaner household products, or being mindful of environmental exposures allows you to support your body without fear or rigidity. These changes are not about perfection. They are about creating a lifestyle that honors your fertility and overall well-being in a way that feels supportive, sustainable, and kind. Thinking about IVF or embryo freezing as part of your fertility plan does not mean you are giving up on natural conception. Instead, it means you are considering all available tools so you can make the best decision for your future family. IVF is not for everyone, and it is not required for many, but understanding it removes fear and replaces it with agency, which is incredibly important after 40. Many women are surprised to learn that IVF can serve as both a treatment and a form of fertility preservation. For those who dream of having more than one child, creating embryos now can protect future possibilities. Frozen embryos remain the same age as the day they were created, which means they can offer hope even years later. This brings peace to women who want flexibility and options. Even if you never use IVF, learning about it allows you to make informed choices. Understanding how embryo freezing works, what success rates look like, and what emotional and financial considerations are involved, helps you walk your path with confidence rather than confusion. You are not committing to anything by learning, you are simply empowering yourself with knowledge. This knowledge becomes particularly comforting when you think about the future. Age 40 is not the end of fertility, but age 42, 43, or 45 can become more challenging. IVF or embryo freezing can serve as a bridge that supports your long-term goals, helping you build the family you envision on a timeline that matches your life rather than external expectations. At the same time, it's essential to recognize that many women never need IVF and still conceive naturally. IVF is not a requirement, it is a choice. Knowing it exists simply takes pressure off the present by giving you more than one pathway toward parenthood. Options create freedom, and freedom creates calm. Ultimately, thinking about IVF is not about fear. It is about being informed, prepared, and supported. It is about honoring your future dreams and giving yourself the gift of knowledge and possibility. Whether you pursue IVF or not, understanding it helps you walk your fertility journey with confidence, clarity, and hope.